Okay, hi everyone. My name is Karl Monahan. I'm one of the founders of Pelvic Pain Matters. I'm a men's pelvic health specialist. I'm joined today by David, also a founder member of Pelvic Pain Matters. Thanks for joining us, David. The reason I wanted to do this today is to talk about something that came up for us fairly recently in one of our pain pointers, didn't it?
Yep. Hi, Carl. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so we were chatting about my experience with CPPS, and people who've been members of the recovery room might be familiar with my story. 8 years with the condition, and then through working with your good self, I had a resolution within about a year. So very grateful for that. But during the session you're referring to, I was reflecting on one of the toughest moments of my CPPS, and it occurred when I was actually on holiday. I'd flown back to Ireland to spend some time in Connemara, a beautiful part of Ireland. And while I was there, I got a phone call from the doctor who was treating me at the time. Um, and he revealed that the latest test that I'd had done showed it was either a raised white blood cell count or bacteria, and therefore when I got back, I would be back on antibiotics again. And for me, CPPS was this real roller coaster. So I'd go through periods of relative respite and no pain, and then I'd get these lows of diagnosis of bacteria, and back to feeling down and painful again. And so that diagnosis over the phone while I was on holiday just basically wrecked the holiday. And I was just dreading getting back on antibiotics again, feeling that, I haven't made any progress with this condition. It's just never going away, and will I ever see the end of it? And so when I was reflecting on it on the session, I did get a bit emotional, just because I suppose looking back on myself then, I feel a little bit sorry for myself and what I went through, and that I dealt with it all for so long, with no real hope on the horizon. And thankfully, I'm out of that place now and in a much better space.
Thank you so much, David. It is incredibly common that our sense of self gets literally hijacked away from us as well, doesn't it? You'd plan this holiday, going to a beautiful spot in Ireland, and all of a sudden then a phone call can make a real difference, or a symptom can start to make a real difference to how we feel. We go from being David on holiday, I am a person on holiday, I am a person or a tourist, I suppose, in some respects, going to visit this beautiful place. I'm really hopeful of this. And then all of a sudden something happens and we're robbed of that sense of self again. And this happens so commonly through pelvic pain. I remember when I had been, I was having a conversation with the urologist. I was desperately wanting to have a sperm count done to see exactly where I was. I was projecting myself into my future and saying, look, I'm a man in my mid-20s. I'm not in this situation to have a family at the moment. I'm not even in a relationship, but I want to know that I can be that future self. Because at the moment, the person who I am reflecting on and associating with is not that kind of person who I feel is going to have that future. So that sense of myself was robbed and taken away from me. I was very angry, very bitter, just a real loss as to what to do and where to turn as well. And that it can literally happen just like that. You can go from being, I'm okay, I'm kind of getting along with things, to, oh, gone. Just where's that person gone? Where's that sense of self gone?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so true that really, in that moment, getting the phone call from the doctor, I went from David, the tourist with a pleasurable long weekend ahead, to David, the CPPS sufferer who takes antibiotics all the time, who has pain in the pelvis, and whose joy is being zapped from life just on a whim. And it really felt also like I had no control over the situation too. Like I was just kind of at the mercy of CPPS and when it might strike. There was just no sense of stability. It was just up and down, a roller coaster ride, and thankfully it's no longer like that.
That you've mentioned a couple of words there I'd just like to reflect on. So that sense of stability, that sense of kind of grounding or a solid foundation, that becomes very, very shaky. It becomes uncertain. And you said in your previous accounts today around you felt sorry for yourself. And I think it's very natural. I think it's okay to feel sorry for yourself. It's okay to feel fed up. I think it's very natural that patients would be having that same kind of experience themselves as well. Just why? Like what have I done to deserve this? Why is this happening to me right now?
Yeah, and that's only what, like, if I really wanted to dwell on it and think of all the times that I could feel sorry for myself, gosh, I'd be a wreck. But it doesn't really pay to dwell on that, does it?
No, it doesn't. And me too. I was just, the time I had my symptoms, the desperate place I found myself, really, really not caring for myself, really not caring for the world at times, caring for those people that are around me, just desperately fed up and really, really quite low, and understandably so. What do we say around this sense of self and the narrative of self? What do we say to someone at the moment who's maybe feeling a little bit lost? What do we say to the patient who is identifying with their pain and maybe not identifying with their other selves? What advice might you give to them, David?
Well, you're not your pain, and it's really important to understand that fact. Also, you have within you the power and ability to overcome that pain, and we've given various bits of advice via our flare-up survival guide, etc., which is really, really helpful. Lots of really helpful ways to reduce your pain and also your mind's response to your pain. So it's just really about trying to get on top of how you respond to the way you react to pain, not to catastrophize, not to feel like the sky is falling in, because it's really not. And with time and implementing various strategies, the pain will reduce, the catastrophization will reduce, and eventually your quality of life will return. And I think for me, that's the most important thing. So I might have the odd twinge below, but it doesn't really hurt and it doesn't compromise my quality of life in any way. So I've got the old David back, and that's a really nice place to be.
Lovely message. Thank you, David. Just going to pick up on a few things you've mentioned there. We are going to put together a catastrophization guide that's coming very shortly. That's something that I think is really relevant, something that often bubbles up with patients around their thoughts, around their worries. Where do we find our heads? Are we projecting into the future or ruminating on the past? And the sky's not going to fall in. I've got a lovely metaphor around this, that if we are the blue sky that's constant, like if our sense of self, if who we really are, that real essence of David or Karl is like the blue sky that's constantly there. And then when a cloud comes across, that's like your symptoms coming in. Doesn't mean yourself hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there. It might just be clouded over at the moment. And maybe there's a thought around, how am I going to be able to deal with that thing in the future? It's almost Christmas time here. So how am I going to deal with my Christmas party coming up? How am I going to deal with the Christmas day itself? Last Christmas day was very different for a number of different reasons. But that sense of self, that sense of you is always there. It doesn't go anywhere. You are the blue sky behind the clouds of doom and symptoms and pain and despair. Those clouds come, But the nice thing about a cloud is it doesn't stay, they do go, they do pass. So that sense of being, that sense of who you are may feel sometimes lost. It may not always feel like it's present and attainable and tangible, but you are still there. That doesn't change. Clouds come, clouds go, moods come, moods go, pain comes and pain does go as well. So it may feel like the sky is falling in. You may have these worrying thoughts. You may lose that sense of self, but you're always there. You are present there.
Here, here, absolutely.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up for today, David?
Just to always have, I guess, your eye on the horizon. Try not to get too bogged down in the here and now. And I know that's easy for me to say, but it is always useful to kind of project ahead, be looking forward. Don't get too ground down in the pain at the present. Try and use the strategies to reduce it, to reduce your mind's response to the pain. And there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel. So that would be my message, just to always have hope, because you can and will beat this.
Lovely messaging to finish off. Thank you so much, David. It's been great to unpack this sense of self, narrative around ourselves, the bigger picture, projecting forward, having hope, even in times of desperation, where our holidays are ruined or our sense of future father is also ruined as well. So you are the blue sky above. You are constantly there. We just get overtaken, overwhelmed by emotions, feelings, thoughts, etc. Thanks for your time, David. It's always a pleasure catching up. It's always lovely to reflect on where we've been as patients and where we are now as well. So stay well, and I look forward to our next chat on this as well.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Karl. Bye.